Hello everyone and welcome to another night of TGP1 Racing in Season 38. It is rounds 9 and 10 from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Canada and Silverstone in Great Britain. We have, going into tonight, we'll quickly run through the championship standings, and it's Jack Hickman leading the championship on 123, Kieran in second on 118, then we've got Dan the Man in third on 98, Jovial Manti, you can see on your screen now, is in fourth place and currently provisionally pole in this session, as we have about 5 minutes to go. And Court is fifth in the championship on 64. So, we'd like to join us in the commentary box tonight. Softy, how are you doing tonight, Softy?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. We're getting ready for another night of TGP1 Racing, so that's all to look forward to. Just seeing the end of this lap from Jovial Manti. We're going to ride on board with the AlphaTauri driver as he goes into the final chicane, 12 and 13. Past the wall of champions, and let's see what he does. Oh, it's a massive slide there, Softy.
Yeah, he's absolutely fucked it there at the end of the lap, but it's very easy to do, to be honest. I think that final chicane, you can ride a lot of the inside curb, but you don't want to ride the left-hand curb, or it will do exactly that. And to be honest with yourself, you know, he's definitely ruined it. Although he's still on pole at the minute, so it's not too bad for him.
I have to excuse Softy's French there. It was a bit out of line, but we'll carry on as we ride on board with Jack Hickman as he's just come towards the end of the first sector in the Red Bull Championship leader going into tonight. And what's his expectations, do you think, going into these two races?
You know, I think with his calibre of you know, his pace and stuff, I think he should be aiming for a win. I think he's won a good number this season already. You know, with the likes of other people failing and just a general lack of pace as well. So, you know, I think he'll be hoping for a front row and you know, looking for the win. To be honest with yourself, and you know, I won't blame him for the pace that he's shown this season.
Yes, so he's heading into turn 10, the hairpin here at Montreal, and he's gone purple in that middle sector. So he's on for a good lap as we ride on board with the Red Bull driver heading down the main straight. He's got the DRS wide open, he's going up the gears. What speed is he going to get up to? He's going to go over to 200 plus. Not quite, as he heads towards the final chicane, down to fourth gear, flick it through the chicane, avoiding the wall of champions. A big snap there from the Red Bull driver as he comes out the chicane. What's his lap time going to be? And he's gone second.
Not far off pole, so it's not too bad. I think he's got one, depending on what the time is. 3 minutes left. He may just about get in the pits if he cuts a few corners. But you know, I think he'll be satisfied with that. I don't think it will matter too much if he's on pole or not. If Jovial Manti is second, because we know how good Jovial Manti's starts are. That, you know, he'll be in first place by turn 1 anyway.
Yeah, so just seeing if anyone else is on a flying lap. We've got Aiden in the other Red Bull, the sister Red Bull. He's currently half a tenth down on his previous best as he heads through turn 6 and 7 here and onto the second of the 3 DRS zones on this circuit. Of course, 3 DRS zones at Montreal. You've got the main straight where the start-finish line is. You've got the run between 7 and 8, and then you've got the back straight between 10 and technically 12 on the circuit map. But that kink on the back straight, I wouldn't really class as a proper corner softy.
No, it's not really. I mean, the way I see it is, if you're full throttle and you're not really turning the wheel all that much, I won't really class it as a straight. But he is a tenth and a half upon his lap time. Currently sitting in P7 on an 11.0, so that should put him. I mean, it might only put him at one place depending on how well he gets his final sector. But you're breaking about the 70-meter board, riding a lot of it, and he's done a lot, and then he's also gone for a spin as well. So I think that's the end of his qualifying there. So yeah, no improvement from Aiden there.
Yeah, I think Matt Tibos is currently out on a flying lap in the Haas, currently down 11th place, which is a very poor run for the former champion, wouldn't you say?
I would, yeah. I think this season he's not really shown that much pace. I think he's looked into some positions due to crashes, you know, Bahrain as an example, but his overall pace isn't there. So yeah, I just think he's probably not gelled with this game as much as previous games. But you know, you can only do what you can do if you're not playing the game all that much. And I know he is in multiple leagues still, apparently. So you know, he should be faster than this. But you know, there's so many factors in play as he goes across the line, and he does a 10.6. So that does improve him up to 5th place so far. So not bad lap.
Not bad lap at all. We've got Alistair just starting a flying lap in the Alfa Romeo. Of course, he won the race in Baku last week in Azerbaijan, picking up his first.
And it is raining. It is raining at the minute as well.
It is raining. You're right. Looking at the onboard, it is starting to spit with rain. It's spitting and everybody in, as Peter Kay would say. As there's a bit of a slide there from Alistair in the Alfa Romeo. He's a little bit down in that first sector, but that might be due to the rain falling, Softy. So maybe have we seen the best time?
Absolutely, Kai is actually.
Yeah, I was just saying, Kai's just popped up to P2.
Yeah, and also Jack Hickey's out, so he knows he's done. There's no point, trying there as
DRS disabled.
Well, as DRS is disabled, so this is
that'd be
realistically going to be a massive struggle now. As we see Cam going into the wall on the exit of turn 2 there because it is too wet. So he's not going to be improving, and he's actually retired on the circuit, which, as far as I'm aware, on the rules, is actually a penalty, as the Confessor has also retired, and he's in P18, but he does have a quali ban, so it's not too bad for him there. But I definitely think cars will not be improving at this stage with the rain.
Yeah, we'll see if Alistair continues that lap. Oh, you can see how greasy the track is there, actually. Just and looking at Alistair, and he's spun on the exit of the final chicane. That came quickly, that rain, didn't it?
It did, yeah. It's quite good, really, because you don't want it to be the same time frame. It can take 5 minutes, let's say, to get from dry to full wets or whatever. You want it to be varied and different. Sometimes you want the rain to come faster or slower, just to give you that bit more variety in the conditions and the weather change.
Yeah, that's definitely thrown up there. Basically ruined a lot of drivers' last runs in that qualifying section. Jack Hickey was quite smart there. He did his last run before the rain started falling, about 3 minutes to go. Kai pretty much done that run just in time, wouldn't you say, Softy? Literally, as it started falling, he was on that main straight.
Absolutely. I think he definitely would have lost a bit of time because of the rain into that final chicane. As we saw a few seconds after that, people were spinning all the time through that final chicane. But, it depends, the setup, downforce, all that sort of stuff. I think it's more important in the wet, because if it's too stiff, you're going to be understeering and stuff. But yeah, I think Kai timed it perfectly, probably even ever so slightly too late. So, but he's in P2 nonetheless, so I don't think he'll be too bothered, and he's ahead of his championship rival in Jack Hickey in third.
Oh, I've just had a DM from our own version of Statman Dave. It's Statman Dom, and he's just given us a stat that the last time Roy Jovial Manatee was on pole position in TGP1 was 2016 season 25. So that's his first pole position in about, 5-6 games? So congratulations to Jovial Manatee in the AlphaTauri, picking up pole position here at the Canadian Grand Prix. We've got Jovial Manatee, like we said, on pole. Then we've got Kai in second, and Jack Hickey rounded out the top 3. Then we've got Cam in third in the McLaren, Court in 5th. And then we've got Matt Tibos in 6th. Then we've got Alistair Bain, last week's winner, in 7th. Jean in 8th. Then we've got Aidan in 9th, and Ollie Hart rounding out the top 10. Then we've got Phil Bardrow 11th, CJH in 12th, Jack Pearson 13th, JD 14th, and then we've got Chiapelli qualifying ban, Dan the Man, Wet Lemons. I think they all had qualifying bans, the Confessor, and ERT Jordan all at the back of the grid.
Yes, they all did have qualifying bans, hence no time set, of course. But yeah, it's quite surprising, to be honest, that Jovial Manatee hasn't had a pole position since season 2025, which was I think the season it was me and him, I think, fighting for the title, if I remember correctly. It's been so long now, but back on that game in that season, Roy was very fast, and unfortunately since then he's not quite had the pace, and he's been sort of mid-pack. The seasons that he's done prior to, I'd say, last season, where he picked up the pace, and then this season where he's actually in contention for poles and wins. Yep,
so the drivers are getting ready to make their last preparations for 18 laps around this circuit, Gilles Villeneuve circuit. 2.7 miles or 4.3 kilometres. Like I said, 18 laps, and we'll see what the drivers do on strategy. I reckon a lot of the drivers will be starting on the mediums, I reckon, around this circuit, wouldn't you say so?
I reckon so. It's the fastest strategy, with no safety car, but yeah, we'll see.
Right, 5 lights are on here at Canada, and the lights will go out any second now. The lights are out, and away we go here in Canada. And it looks like a strong start from Jovial Manatee up the front, and a poor start from Kai as he gets caught. Very strong start from Court. He's trying to slice the gap and thread the needle. Didn't quite make it work. He's still in 4th place, though, so it was a strong start from him. Alistair up into 5th. There's a little bit of drama further down the field. But Jovial Manatee come through the first. Matt Tibos is rounding out already. No safety cars, of course, in TGP1. So no safety cars to worry about for Jovial Manatee as he's pulling the gap already at the front.
He is, yeah. I think after turn 1, turn 2, he was just over a second, but Kai is using his ERS to keep within that 1 second gap. But yeah, unfortunate for Matt Tibos. I think it was Matt Tibos and Ollie Hart that came together on the exit of turn 2, and Matt Tibos thinking, well, no safety car, I may as well just retire, which is unfortunate for Matt Tibos. He did a decent qualifying, but yeah, at the minute, the gap is coming down quite a lot between the top two, but at the minute, lap one as Aidan Griffiths gets overtaken by, well, he did get overtaken by New Zealand Cam, but then New Zealand Cam went a bit wide there. So it's pretty close at the minute, but it is only lap one, so there are a few little battles, and here comes New Zealand Cam. Is he going to try up the inside of the chicane? I think he is. Up the inside, and no, Aidan brakes later and makes the corner.
Meanwhile, Kai all over the back. They're side by side going down the main straight. Kai's got the inside line going into turn one, and he's going to get the move done, isn't he? Yes, he is. He's got the move up into P1, into the lead of the race. Kai and Joe Manti, his first pole position in about 6 gears, hasn't gone well, and he's already been overtaken.
He is, yeah, and the problem with Jovial Manatee this season, I have noticed, his quali pace and his pace in general is much better than it has been in previous seasons, but his race pace, should I say, is just slightly less than the cars around him. So unfortunately for him, I think Jovial Manatee is going to need just to keep that in that 1 second, just to allow that DRS to sort of hopefully drag him along. But Kai has 59% ERS, while Jovial Manatee has 73. So Kai, I think, will try and use a bit more ERS to get that gap, but to be honest with yourself, I think Jovial Manatee should, in theory, be able to keep it within that 1 second, barring any mistakes, as Dan the Man does get ahead of JD down further.
Well, you say he's going to try and keep in that DRS. He's got Jack Hickman in the Red Bull all over the back of him. He's going to use some ERS to try and keep out in front. He's going to be in front through the chicane, but Jack Hickman on the softer rubber as well. He started on the soft. Jovial Manatee starting on those medium tyres, hoping to get a good run out that final chicane, but didn't, and he's not going to be a threat into turn one.
No, he's not, and that's the thing, that you always run the risk. And actually, I must say, you always run the risk of starting on the mediums because you tend to get worse starts. However, for Jovial Manatee, he can get away with it because he gets better starts than anyone anyway. You can start on the mediums, have a better race strategy, knowing that, well, I'm still going to get a better start than people on the softs. And Jack Hickey, yes, granted, he's on the soft tyres. He's going to be putting Jovial Manatee under pressure. But realistically, Jovial Manatee just thinks to myself, well, hang on a minute, he's on the softs. If I can keep him behind for another 1 or 2 laps, it's going to cost him more race time than it will Jovial Manatee. But as we can see, Kai has actually pulled that gap quite significantly at the minute, and 1.4 seconds. So he's now going to not have that DRS to Jack Hickey. I think we'll use much more ERS down this straight to get him.
Yeah, Jack Hickman along right in the slipstream. DRS, of course, enabled this lap as well for Roy to worry about Jack Hickman going to the outside, going into the chicane, and he's going to have the move done before he gets there, and that is Jack Hickman up in second, Jovial Manatee back down at third, and Court, who's had a strong start to this race, still in P4 and getting closer to the back of Jovial Manatee in his Ferrari.
He is, yeah. Court's actually had a few decent races in terms of his outright pace, the past, I'll say, 3 races, to be honest. So the fact that Court is realistically fighting for the podium on pace alone, fair play to him. He's doing very well.
He is indeed. Caught getting closer and closer to the back of the AlphaTauri. He seems to be really struggling on those medium tyres, especially compared to the soft runners that are all starting to queue up behind him now. Bit of a train fawning behind Jovial Manatee, as you can see, all the way down to about 7th place, as Kai picks up a 3-second time penalty, so that's even more of a reason for him to get the gap. And Jack Hickman on the soft tyres is going to try and keep that gap at 3 seconds for the time being, won't he?
He is, yeah, and obviously, 1.3 seconds compared to 3 as the Confessor has actually retired. That was on the exit of turn 2, the same way Matt Tibos crashed, so not a good return to form for the Confessor in TGP. But yeah, I mean, at the minute, the gap is stabilising. I think Jack Hickey probably will pit in the next 2 laps, I'd say.
Sorry to interrupt you, Court. It's down the inside of Jovial Manatee into the final chicane and gets the position up. He's up into P3, narrowly avoiding the exit on the Wall of Champions, and he's up a position, and Jovial Manatee's lost yet another place in this race.
He is, yeah. He's not got the pace on those mediums, and the problem is, he does have soft runners around him, which naturally you'd think are going to have a bit more pace up until this point. But I think, again, as I was saying earlier, Jovial Manatee has struggled ever so slightly with outright pace this season, which is costing him a bit more at the minute. But he just needs to play it cool, don't get any penalties, because this is a very easy circuit to get penalties, and the less you get, the better it's going to be.
That is a very important factor indeed. Meanwhile, Alistair had a little wobble coming out of turn number 4, and that has meant Aidan has closed up to the back of him. It's going to be a battle of the brothers, and he's bringing the Cam along with him. He
is, yeah. Cam is, after what you can say was a decent qualifying session for him. Down in P7, at the minute. He's not too far off the the leader at the minute with a again a 3-second penalty there. But I do think from the looks of it, I'd say New Zealand Cam is actually running more downforce than Aiden. Aiden's under 10% and he wasn't really closing on Aiden. So New Zealand Cam maybe doesn't have the straight line speed at the minute. There's got a few pitters.
Yeah, a few people coming in the pit. Sean, Phil and Dan all into the pit lane on lap number 5, trying to go for that undercut. We've also got, who else is that? Jack Pearson in as well. So a whole gaggle of cars starting to make their pit stops in this Grand Prix. As we see Alistair again having a snap coming on the exit of turn number 4. And Aiden's all over the back of him. Cam's looking for a sniff down the inside at turn number 6. And that was a bit tight.
And Aiden's
binned it on the exit of 7. That's
unfortunate for Aiden there. It was definitely unfortunate. I think Cam tried a bit of an over-ambitious move into the previous corner, and I think Aiden probably a bit frustrated, not focusing on his driving, ends up spinning and costing himself it all really. So unfortunate there, but it just means one less person for Cam to overtake, and he's got Alistair getting a bit squirrely on the exit there. So I don't think Alistair's got the grip to do much, as JD has sadly retired in the pits.
Yeah, meanwhile, a thing to worry about for Jack Hickman is Court is all over the back of him now in the Ferrari, having another stellar drive. He's actually binned it at the exit of the Wall of Champions, not the pit lane, as we see from that on board. So we see Jack Hickman getting hounded now by the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, I mean, Court's been doing well. As I was saying, he's had a few good racing, to be honest with yourself. I mean, looking at it, they are relatively equal on us as well, around 44 to 49% in the favour of Jack Hickey. But, his Court's definitely giving him a run for his money. But all Jack Hickey needs to think of is, don't get in a battle. Do not get in a battle with Court, because that gap at the minute, 2.2 seconds to Kieran, and I mean Kieran is on those medium tyres at the minute, so all he needs to do is just stay out for another few laps, I reckon, until Jack Hickey pits. And this is what I'm referring to. It is the faster strategy. Is we've got a yellow flag. I think that's just the cars going slow of wet lemons there, getting out of people's way. But yeah, Kai is on the better strategy. He's in the prime position, so I don't think it really matters too much at this moment, as long as he's got that 3-second gap to Jack Hickey at the end. He's sitting pretty for a potential win.
He has indeed. Meanwhile, we've seen Alistair and Aiden coming for pit stops there. Court's diving into the pit lane as well. He's going to try and do the undercut on Jack Hickman. As we see him peel into the pit lane, be interested to see where he comes out. He should come out in front of that gaggle of Alistair, Jean, Phil Bardrow and Aiden. We'll see how the pit stop goes for the Ferrari team. It looks like a solid stop, unlike the one at the weekend at the Dutch Grand Prix. They actually managed to realise the car had 4 wheels, and he's away out of the pit lane, ready to rejoin the racetrack now. And he's rejoining, like I said, just in front of Alistair. Alistair has closed the gap a bit, though.
He has, yeah. I think he will. Realistically, they've all made one stop. I think the undercut is still powerful. Depending on your outright pace, you can either go for the undercut or the overcut. But I think naturally, you probably still want to go for that undercut, just because you've got those warmer tyres by the time the person.
Oh, Cam's binned it,
and Cam's binned it. Yeah.
Yeah, Cam has binned it on the exit of turn number 9. He lost the back end, slid into that inside wall, ripped the front wheel off, and that is the end of Cam's Grand Prix, just as he was closing in on the back of Jovial Manatee.
Yep. Not what he wants. Not what he wants at all, really.
And Phil's done the same thing!
Oh. But Phil doesn't DNF at least, so that's a positive for him.
Just as I flicked it on board to the back of Phil, he was closing in on the back of Dan the Man. He does the exact same thing.
In the pits. Or Jack Hickey in the pits, should I say.
Yeah,
but yeah, so that is unfortunate, I must say, for New Zealand Cam. And as I've been saying, I think throughout this season, he's got the pace. He showed it last season that he's got the pace to be at the front, but these mistakes just keep happening. I don't know whether it's a case of he knows he's out of the title fight, so he's not too bothered, but unfortunate for Cam, that's all I'll say on this instance.
Jack Hickman has come out the pit lane, and he's come out about a second clear of Court Gill, but he's on cold tyres, so Court is going to be charging down that gap, and he's going to be back on the rear of him very shortly.
He is, yeah. I think he's already within that 1 second. I think that the tyre warm-up depends on the circuit. Some circuits, the cold tyres cost you 1 to 2 seconds, and some circuits it's half a second at most. But Court is back to where he was, right behind Jack Hickey. I think it's still going to be quite difficult to overtake. They're still both level as such on Urs management, but yeah, I think Court has got the slight benefit of that DRS, but Jack Hickey's got that slight benefit with fresh tyres.
Yeah, as they come onto the back straight on lap number 10 of this Grand Prix, he's going to have the DRS wide open, and he's going to have a look maybe to the outside of the final chicane. No, he's going to think better of it. Jack Hickman had to go defensive, and that means he's going to try and go for the better exit. He's going to ride on board with Ferrari driver, and I think he's using Urs down this straight. Dan the Man's picked up a 3-second time penalty, but Court, his teammate, is still all over the back of Jack Hickman, but couldn't quite get the move done into turn 1 there.
No, I think Court wasn't actually using any of it. I don't know if Jack Hickey was to defend there, but I think Court's probably playing the long game. He knows realistically, is he going to get Roy or Kai? Probably not. It's hard to really say yay or nay really, but I think Court can fight for the podium, no question about it. But I think it would definitely be a fight for third or fourth in this race.
Well, he was fighting Jack Hickman, who was running second on the road before those pit stops. Jovial Manti was down in fourth, struggling on those medium tyres. He will be on those soft tyres come the second half of this race, so he'll be able to claw something back, but will it be enough to get involved in this battle? Kai should probably clear this battle most likely once he makes his pit stop. As we see Court heading down the back straight once again, this time with the DRS, and he's getting closer and closer. CJH is into the pit lane, but again he's not going to quite be close enough to make a move into that final chicane. Jack Hickman going defensive once again. We're going to ride on board with the Ferrari driver once again down this straight, and he's using his Urs this time. He's going to have a look to the outside as Jack Hickman defends the inside. They're going to be side by side through 1, and they're going to be side by side through 2. They're still side by side. I think the exit there from Jack Hickman, a little slide there from Court on board, and that means that Jack Hickman retains the position for the time being.
He does, yeah. Nice battle in there, giving that respect. It's very easy sometimes when fighting to, just take a bit more than you can chew, squeeze them a bit too much. But, I think when two drivers have got absolute respect for each other and they know what they're getting, battles like that happen. You leave people enough room. You both make it around the corners, and you both live to fight another corner.
Fight another day indeed as they go down the straight. This is the closest battle on the circuit as well. This battle for third and fourth currently on the road. Alistair's picked up another time penalty as we see them go through the hairpin once again, and is Court going to try and make a move. I think he's a little bit further back than he has been in previous laps as I see Wet Lemons retire from the race, and Jovial Manti is in the pit lane.
Yeah, Jovial Manti, I think, will come out behind this lot. There's no doubt about that, really. But yeah, Court got a bit of understeer on the exit as Jack Hickey gets a bit out of shape, and this is actually going to allow Court to gain up again, but he's not going to try anything by the looks of it, or is he? He's not using any Urs, but he does get that slipstream. But yeah, no, they're both level on Urs as well, Jack Hickey and Court by, I'd say, 10% now. But yeah, now they just need to think of, right, Jovial Manti's come out on those soft tyres, P5, not that far behind, but it'll be interesting to see really where Kai comes out as well. I think he'll come out in between Alistair and Jovial Manti, I reckon, but yeah, it's going to be interesting, that is for sure. The opposite strategies from the two title contenders.
Well, the gap at the moment is currently 20.5 seconds and closing between Kai and Jack Hickman. Kai is surely going to be pitting soon. It's actually probably going to be very close on the pit exit. As we said, Jovial Manti comes out in P5 at the moment, about 5.5 seconds behind this battle. So we'll see if he'll have to make up about a second a lap to get involved with this towards the end of the race. And I think that might just be too big of an ask for him.
It is possible. I definitely think the deficit between the tyres in the race isn't that huge, and also Jovial Manti does have Dan the Man behind him. Obviously, Dan the Man does have that penalty, and he is on the mediums, but he doesn't need Dan the Man getting ahead of him at all. So Jovial Manti just needs to take each lap as it comes, be smooth, be precise, and not really take any risks. But this is just the lack of pace that Jovial Manti's had all season. It ends up costing you places just by going around the circuit without even doing anything wrong, really. Yeah,
as we see, this battle is still ongoing between Court, Gill and Jack Hickman. We've also got a very close battle further back between CJH and Jean, but I think CJH is on those softer tyres, so he should pull the gap out as this race continues on. But we're going to keep watching this battle for P2 on the field now, and Kai, it'll be very interesting to see where he comes out when he eventually does make his pit stop. He's going a long way in this race on those medium tyres.
He is. I think he's going to try and do the Max Verstappen sort of tactic of just being on it as fresh as possible tyres, and it sort of worked for him last week. I think it was in one of the races. I can't remember which one, but where he stayed out late, and here comes Court then into P3, but not quite into the chicane there. But yeah, no, Kai is in actually the pits now, but I think it's really hard for me to advise on strategy. Is actually Kai has actually came out in the lead still. So Kai is on those fresh mediums. He's still out in the lead, 2.3. So the gap has actually remained the same prior to the pit stops between Jack Hickey and Kai there. But now it's in Kai's favour. He's on those soft tyres. He just needs to pull out 1 second, and that's the win for him. So not really what Jack Hickey wanted, but you can only do so much sometimes.
Yeah, he can only do so much. So Kai retains the lead after the rounds of pit stop. He's currently 2 seconds the lead, needs a 3 second gap with that penalty bearing in mind. Otherwise, the winner will be going one of Jack Hickman or Court's way. But Court still having a stellar run in that Ferrari, currently running in P3. One of the best runs we've seen we say one of the best runs for a little while. We had a very good last couple of races last week as well. But this is the sort of form we like to see from Court. The Dutchman making his way in TGP1 and making some strides, kind of emulating his brother, the esports driver Isaac Gillison, as he goes to look at move maybe in towards the final chicane. Doesn't quite get it done, and now he heads down this straight, and I think he's going to be a little bit too far back to make a move possibly into turn one. But he's going to burst some he's going to look maybe to the inside. He's going to go for the dive. Is he? No, he thinks better of it, and they stay line astern for one more lap.
And the problem with that Court has got is there's a yellow flag, as I think it's Ollie Hart has sadly spun in the middle sector, is Court's actually used all of his ERS to keep up with Jack Hickey at this stage. He's on 19% while Jack Hickey's on 33%. And I must actually point out as well, looking at Race Director, Kai is actually only, I think, one warning away from a second penalty, while Jack Hickey, I think, is also actually just one warning away by the looks of it there. So it's not all over just yet. One mistake from either of these drivers, and it could vastly, change which of the drivers wins the race at this point.
Yeah, we're going to look further down the field as Dan the Man is keeping up with Jovial Manti on those soft tyres. He's on the medium, so Jovial Manti, like you said, really struggling for pace. He's just about on the back of Alistair now. He's about 1.2 seconds off. But he's not pulling away from Dan the Man, despite Dan the Man being on older tyres and medium tyres.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. Jovial Manti's overall pace. And think of it this way. Jovial Manti did start ahead of Kai. They're on the same strategy. But look at the gap between them. Kai's in first. Jovial Manti's in fifth. And that is purely down to pace. Jovial Manti he's lacked the outright pace, and it's all well and good qualifying well, getting those amazing starts, but if you don't have that pace to keep that form, you're just going to drop back, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I think Jovial Manti needs to have a look at his setups, anything he can to think, right, what can I do to be quicker? And I think I must point out one thing I potentially may think it is, medium traction control. Jovial Manti uses medium traction, so does Dan the Man. So that may explain sometimes why they're not able to have that outright pace in the race, because it may be hindering them. That's just a guess, I don't know, but it's a possibility.
Meanwhile, further up the field, Kai's made a mistake coming out of the last hairpin, and he's now dropped to the third place. And there's now a battle for the win between Court and Jack Hickman. Not entirely sure what happened there with Kai. I was watching the battle between Dan the Man and Jovial Manti starting to brew up, but he's made a mistake coming out the hairpin. He clearly must have just dropped it. And now it's a battle for the win between Jack Hickman and Court.
Exactly, and the fact that Kai's got that penalty with a lap and a half, 2 laps to go, there's not a chance you're going to win the race now. So Kai has just made, the biggest mistake, I'd say, of his TGP1 career, realistically. You're fighting for the title, it's close, there's 4 or 5 points between you and Jack Hickey. You're in the win, you're in that lead, and then you make a mistake and drop down to third. So it's not what he wants, and to be honest with yourself, he needs to be careful, because again, one more corner cut as he goes up the inside of Court, and he's going to have another penalty, which is not what he wants.
Yeah, well, I think he might be just about getting it. No, he doesn't quite there. Meanwhile, while we're talking there, Dan the Man has actually gained a position on Jovial Manti as well. So he's got up a position, and he's up into 5th, and Jovial Manti's down to 6th. But Kai, that is an absolute clanger from Kai. A huge mistake, leading the race comfortably, spins on the exit of the hairpin, and now he's cost himself points to his championship rival Jack Hickman, who looks like he's probably going to win the race now.
Exactly, and Kai's used all of his errs as well. So in order to get that gap, and this is what I've always referred to. And he spawned at the final chicane. He did hit the wall there. He did a little bit of a Sebastian Vettel in 2014, but that's going to cost him even more. I mean, Alistair does have this penalty, but you've got Jovial Manatee not that far behind either. So it gets bad. It goes bad to worst for Kai there. But what I was saying is Kai's used all of his errs. He's on 13% errs at the minute, so he's got nothing to fight with at this point. He's got nothing to gain that gap on the cars behind him, because you've wasted all your errs trying to get that gap originally, and then you make a mistake and blow it.
And those tyres are going to be super hot as well with the new surface and carcass that we're using in TGP1 now. Those rear tyres are going to be burning up. They're going to be such a difficult job to get to even the finish line now. He's got about a second and a half over Alistair Bain, who's also got a 3-second time penalty. But Jovial Manatee, as we were speaking about him, looks like he might end up with a podium at this rate.
He is, yeah, and Dan the Man's down in P8 all of a sudden. I don't think we saw that one, or I'm just blind. But I thought Dan the Man was right behind Jovial Manatee a few laps ago, and now he's not. So, but yeah, this is going to help Jovial Manatee quite a lot. He's got 2 cars ahead of him, both with 3-second penalties, and Kohler gets a penalty. So that's not going to help his
Jack Hickman's coming across the line to win the race here in Canada. Court picks up a 3-second time penalty, but a lot of drivers behind him have also got 3-second time penalties, so he's going to retain P2. But Jack Hickman, superb drive from the front of the field. He wasn't at the front of the field. He was running second, third most of the race. Kai made that mistake on the soft tyres, trying to push to get that 3-second gap to make his penalty redundant. Didn't work out. He's ended up spinning, and he's ended up finishing third in the race. Jovial Manatee came home in fourth, Alistair fifth. Then we've got CJ Haight, Mr. Chiapelli, and we're just waiting for the last few stragglers to come across the line now. But that was it made it very interesting at the end. Jack Hickman wins the first race of the night for the 4th time out of 5 times this season. Does that mean, and Kieran will probably win the second race of the night now to keep that trend going? The only night that hasn't happened was last week when in Monaco and Baku, which are 2 kind of best way of putting it is kind of surprise tracks. They're joker tracks, shall we say, is the best way of putting them.
Yeah, I mean, different drivers do work different circuits and stuff, but, one thing I'd like to point out about this season, I'd say Kai has the outright pace on Jack Hickey, but Jack Hickey this season has got the consistency. As we can see the podium there. Jack Hickey, yet another win, racking up those wins this season. So that will be moving him up in the record sheet, the top 10 TGP1 winners, which some of us care about, some of us not so much. The Red Bull team are very happy there, spraying that champagne. Jack Hickey, I'll be honest with yourself, out of nowhere managed to get a win. So I think he'll be very happy with that. I don't think he'll be happy with his outright pace, but this is the thing. Previous seasons, Jack Hickey had the pace, but he wasn't quite consistent enough. Whereas this season he's showing that consistency a bit more than usual. And Owen, I'll let you go down the finishing order.
So here is the full finishing order for the Canadian Grand Prix round number 9 of this season. Jack Hickman in the Red Bull picks up another victory as his title challenge continues. Caught in second place, very strong drive for him, despite picking up that 3-second penalty at the end. Then we've got Kieran in third after a couple of spins towards the end of the race when he looked like he was going to win it. Jovial Manatee in fourth, Alistair in fifth, then we've got CJ Haight in sixth. Mr. Chiapelli coming back from the back of the grid, finishing in 7th place. Got Dan the Man in 8th, Jean in 9th, and Aidan rounding out the top 10. Then ERT Jordan, Jack Pearson, Phil Bardwell, Ollie Hart will be the last person classified with points. Then it'll be Wet Lemons, Cam, Jake Davis, and the Confessor, and Matt Tibos all DNFing from this race. So that was round 9 of the season from Canada. And next up, we've got a classic circuit in F1 calendar history, the Silverstone circuit from Great Britain. It's had a few changes over the years, but now it is, it's always been one of the fastest tracks on the calendar, and we're going to be seeing the drivers battle it out, which normally produces a good amount of battles, don't it, this circuit?
It does, yeah. I think because there's not that many heavy braking zones, and I'd say technical corners. I think the only real technical corners are Maggots, Beckett's, and so on, really. But yeah, I think that just naturally allows the cars to race a bit more freely, similar to Austria. Relatively basic circuits do allow cars to follow more closely. But yeah, and I'd actually like to go over the championship standings after that result, really. So Jack Hickey was only a few points ahead. I think it was like 4 or 5 points ahead of Kai pre this race, and now Jack Hickey's on 148 points at present after that win. Kieran is still second on 134, so that gap now has gone up by I'd say a decent amount when you're fighting for every single point, and this championship will go down to the wire. Rest assured of that. Dan the Man, P3, 105 points. Bearing in mind, he disconnected, from the first 2 races of the season, and he looked good at Bahrain after the carnage at Turn 1. So just think, if he hadn't disconnected from those 2 races, he could be right up there with Kieran. Roy Scorer only on 102 points. So results-wise, probably not quite where he wants to be, but in terms of championship, he's 4th. You can't complain too much. And actually, the surprise of the season, now, we've been going on tonight about Court having decent races this season. He's actually in 5th in the standings on 82 points. Bearing in mind, yes, he's, about, 20 points behind the next car, but he's in P5 in TGP1. Now, fair play. You've got the likes of New Zealand Cam, the Confessor. Confessor is a TGP1 champion. You've got VFR Glock. You've got so many established drivers who have been in TGP1, who have won races, and he's ahead of most of them. All I'm going to say is, whatever you're doing, Court, whether that's whether it's getting your brother to race for you or whatever that may be, just keep doing it, because you're doing very well. So yeah. And what do you make of Court's season so far?
Yeah, Court's had a very strong season so far. Last couple of races have been supreme from him, and he's put himself comfortably in the top 5 in the championship. He was top 5 going into tonight anyway, but he's now solidified that position with another podium in Canada, finishing P2 and battling for the win.
Exactly, and it's just unfortunate. I mean, in the end, it really actually didn't cost him anything. He still finished P2 even with that penalty. Without it, he would have still finished P2 anyway. So, yeah, it's he's doing well. I think that's probably one of his best drives this season. Second on outright pace. Okay, yeah, granted, Guy did spin, but that's what you got to do. You just got to be consistent, not make those mistakes. And as I was briefly saying before the rundown of the race results, you've got to do that. Jack Hickey, in the seasons he's been in T1 where he's been fighting myself and VFR Glock for these titles, he's had the pace, but maybe not quite as consistent as he would like. And this season, he's been consistent. So, he just needs to do what he's doing, and he's coming, I think at the halfway point of the season. So, he's got a decent points gap in the standings. Just do what you do. But as we can see, speaking of this race, Silverstone dry, yeah. So there's no issues with it being wet. I don't know what the race will be. I wouldn't be surprised if it is wet, to be honest, because it is Silverstone. But what do you make of Silverstone? Have you enjoyed racing around here, or is it a circuit you tend not to enjoy?
I enjoy Silverstone a lot. It very much suits my driving style, this circuit. A lot of fast flowing corners, linking one after another. Not really a lot of heavy braking zones and traction zones, which I feel has always been a big issue for me in general, is traction zones. So lack of that around Silverstone. You've only really got the club chicane and the loop section where you've got major traction zones. The rest of it is not too difficult for the traction on the car, and you can get out and be decent around it. So we've got to see the first few drivers coming out in this qualifying session rate your set banker laps. And who would you like to do a lap with when they come out the pits, Softy?
Oh, we'll see. Let's have a look now. I want someone who's going to be relatively at the front, to be honest, just so we can really see the max out of it. I'd probably say, to be honest, New Zealand Cam is, again, he's not had the luck this season and has been in a lot of, sadly, his own crashes. But we'll go with New Zealand Cam, shall we? Just give you a rundown of this circuit and sort of how realistically you really. So at this minute, it'd be just getting his tyres warmed. You don't actually have to really do tyre warm-up. You can either go full speed and get your tyres warm that way, or you can go slower and do a bit of weaving. So he's getting his ears turned on right now, I'm sure. Coming into the final chicane, you want to try and take a wide line onto this straight. So he does take it into the chicane, going up the gears. Nothing really too hard about this last corner. So across the straight, you want to try and widen the corner. So use all the curb on the left, cut all the curb on the inside. You've got to be careful though, and he's actually almost lost it there. So is he going to continue? We'll continue with him. About 40 metres, you want to brake, hook up that curb on the inside, take as wide of a line as you can on this left-hander. You can use this exit curb and it doesn't affect your traction whatsoever. Avoid the sausage curbs on the inside of that left-hander there onto this straight. DRS is open. Now again, I'd say probably about the 50-metre board here. You want to ride all this curb on the inside, avoid those sausage curbs, take the sweeping corner. You can do this corner, the old last corner, in many different lines. I try and cut back. You can use also the curb on the right side. Cut this right-hander here. You can use all that curb as long as you've got two wheels on the circuit. Now, Copse, I'd say about 50 metres you want to turn in. Careful of the inside, but he does run wide. He doesn't invalidate it because he does stay off the circuit a bit longer, which I don't know how that works. He actually invalidated there because he took a bit too much curb, but that's his lap gone, unfortunately. And yeah, it's, you can see he's struggled all the way through Maggots and Beckett's there. So unfortunate for Cam, but as we saw when he was on it, a decent lap in the sense of the lines you can and probably should take as he does come into the pits to get on a new fresh set of tyres. So that was not bad from Cam there in terms of before he invalidated, unfortunately, as Aidan Griffiths has gone for a spin at Stowe as his teammate Jack Hickey comes on an outlap. So what I'm going to do, we'll go with Jack Hickey, shall we, if you are there, Owen, as he is starting this lap. So hopefully it's a clean one from Jack Hickey there, but up the gears. Nice and easy as the Confessor actually does a 27.6. Jack Hickey rides a lot of the curb there, quite settled, which is good there. You don't want it to be too outstanding in terms of the rear end. Hook up that inside curb, don't touch the sausage curb though. And obviously same with this left-hander on to this straight. You want to ride all the curb on the left-hand side just to narrow the corner of attack to keep that momentum really. And obviously coming into this long left-handed 50-metre board. It actually takes a bit of an early apex, which gives him a bit of understeer on the entrance, but that could be the ABS working its way. You can short shift out of here to give you that bit better traction. Higher gears do tend to help with traction if your rear end's a bit too stable. Coming into Stowe then 50 metres, turn in, ride all the curb on the inside, you can get away with it, nice and easy, doesn't run wide, very easy to do. And here we go, Maggots and Beckett's, a few lines you can take here. Let's see, does he take a lot of the curb? Yes, he does. Does he take a lot of the curb on the left? Not quite. It actually gets a bit of understeer through that left-hander and onto this back straight then. DRS wide open. You've done all you can there. He is purple, it shows, in that middle sector. Into Stowe then. Very hard. You want to brake and turn just as you get to the curb on the left-hand side. He does slightly miss the apex, so not quite where he wants, but to be honest, I think most of the time you probably won't hit that apex. Avoid the sausage curb on the left, avoid it on the right. Try and get that good exit. You can use all the curb on the left-hand side and avoid the sausage curb on the right. And he crosses the line, and it's a 27.8. So it is only P3 from him at the minute, while the Confessor is on a 27.6. So a good first lap from the Confessor. And to be honest, same with VFL Glock and Jack Hickey. The top three at the moment with Jovial Manatee in fourth.
Yeah, as we've seen, Court going through Copse Corner now, go on a flying lap himself. Let's see what the man who got a podium in Canada can do as he goes through the Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel section of the circuit. Kai is also on a flying lap directly in front of him. No, he's not. He's on an invalidated lap. So it's just all eyes on Court as he heads down that back straight. It's 11 dead after Sector 2 as he needs to get a 27.6 to jump onto pole position. I don't think he'll be really challenging for that. So maybe sort of where Jack Hickman, Jovial Manatee is, I think that's realistic for him as he pulls into the pit lane actually. So that ruins that strategy. See if anyone else is on a flying lap. And
Kai looks like he is about to start another flying lap, so he's got the fuel for a second flying lap, or it was his first, just invalidated his out lap potentially. So Kai is just starting a lap as we speak.
He is indeed, as he goes onto the main straight, up the gears he goes and flies through Abbey Corner, flat out in these cars. And while we were going on about Abbey Corner, that save from Cam was quite spectacular, as you were commentating earlier. I did want to shout out and say what a save that was, but that was quite something, wasn't it, Softy?
It was, and that's the thing with, I think more so on this game as well, the cars do tend to snap a bit more easily, when you're getting on the power, compared to the previous ones, as he is purple in that first sector, is Kieran. But yeah, I mean, yeah, depending on your setup, it's very easy to get a snap of those there in that first corner. So to be fair, granted, he did well to save that.
He did very well to save that. Kai heading towards Copse Corner now on this. With the current generation of cars, it used to be flat with the old games. Now it's not anymore. You have to downshift and a little lift going through Copse Corner, but he's still flat through the first couple of parts of the Maggotts, Beckett's and Chapel section. Down to 5th gear for the final part and fling yourself out onto the hanger straight now. It's a 1... That's not right. A 10... It is right. Okay, a 1037 going through.
He should go pole, I reckon.
That's interesting to see as he goes through Stowe now. Little wobble on the exit of Stowe Corner. Hasn't lost him too much time though. Down the gears he goes, down to 2nd gear through the club chicane for the final time in this. Well, not final time, but he's going round it anyway. As we see, Kai goes 2nd.
Second, very close between the top 2 there. Very close, but a good lap from Kai there. He's in P2 again. He's ahead of his championship rivals, and I think this part of the season, you realistically be thinking, right, I don't necessarily care so much about the wins. I just want to, beat my championship rival. Every race that you beat them, that gap's going to come down and it's going to be in your favour. So even if it's 1 point, 2 points, 5 points, just focus on beating your championship rival rather than focus on the wins.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. As we see Dan the man heading down the straight, he hasn't set a flying lap yet in this qualifying session as he goes through towards the end of sector 1. It's a 27.5 first sector, so a solid first sector from him as he goes round Luffield. This is one of the few corners where you have to be really careful on the exit just because of how long and sweeping you feel like you're waiting ages and ages before putting the power on, and then you fling yourself out through Woodcote and the old pit lane there heading towards Copse Corner, Softy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There he goes through Stowe, and he's actually invalidated his lap there as Dan the man. But yeah, I mean, this sort of circuit, I'd actually say it's probably harder to find time on your competitors, purely because it's such a fast circuit. You always tend to find more time in those slow sectors, and there's not really that many bars. The first sector really. But yeah. I've never really been a fan of Silverstone too much. It's okay to drive, but it's not. I'm not a huge fan there. But we've still actually got. Bear in mind, there's only 8.5 minutes left. Half the field still have not set lap times as yet. You've got the likes of Court at the minute, who sadly not set a lap time. Aidan Griffins, Matt Tibos, Dan the man, New Zealand Cam, all people that you'd expect to be higher than the outside the top 10, and they've all still yet to set laps. So. They need to hurry up about it. At least get one banker in before you go for an all-out, balls to the walls lap.
Yeah, as we see, Phil Bardwell currently in 6th position in this qualifying session on a 28.3. See if he could improve and put himself maybe a little bit further up the grid. He's currently 4 tenths off the guy next to him up the road, which is Jovial Manti, who I believe is just starting to fly in lap as well. As we see the Alpine driver come through the club chicane. Let's see what he can do coming out this last corner. And he goes across the line. Does he improve? He's improved time-wise, but not enough to make any inroads in his position as we view the AlphaTauri driver, Jovial Manti, and he's improved by a 10th in that first sector.
He has, yeah. It shows purple on the mini map for myself, but I never really trust the mini map purely because it constantly lies about the middle sector. Everyone's always got a purple middle sector, but yeah, it looks to be a neat lap from Jovial Manti at the minute through Copse. Bit of understeer there, so that has pushed him slightly wide, but he doesn't invalidate, so that's all that matters really. You can take a few lines through Copse, to be honest, but looking through Maggotts and Beckett. Quite nice, not too much understeer. The line is a bit of oversteer there, that will cost him a bit of time. He is still a 10th up, although that oversteer will cost you time all the way down into Stowe. And let's see then, as Kurt's actually put up a lap, and he goes last of the time setters there. But not bad from Jovial Manti through Stowe. It's always very deceiving. You always look like through these sort of circuits with the fast corners, it looks fast, but it's very easy to be misleading. But here we go then. He's P5 and he goes up to P3, two and a bit tenths. And obviously the fact that he's in third, he'll probably be first place by the time he gets into turn one, as Glock then sets a 27.5. Glock has always done well round here. He's unlucky not to win last season. He got close, but sadly got a penalty for track extended. But yeah, not a bad lap, if I can get it out, from Jovial Manatee. P4 at the minute. Only a tenth and a bit off pole position.
Yeah, very good lap from Jovial Manatee. Glock went on to pole, and then Penny's having a whale of a time coming through that final club chicane. He got on the orange sausage curb, and he looked like he was on for a solid lap, and then had a massive slide and chucked all the time away. But he still actually gained a position. He still jumped ahead of Jack Pearson with that lap.
Yeah, and we've actually got JD sadly spinning on his outlap at Stowe, so not what he wants. Probably a bit too cold tyres and giving it a bit too much there, to be honest. But Court then, is he going to go into the pits? Yes, that's an in-lap for Court there. But yeah, at the minute, not many people are actually on fast lap. I don't think anyone is on a fast lap actually. Is not even New Zealand Cam. So, actually maybe Aiden. I think he's on a fast lap at the minute. He's the only one that's on a fast lap by the looks of it. Through Cops, quite nice, a bit of understeer though, but he just needs to get a lap on. He's currently last in P19 at the minute, so not really where Aiden, I'm sure, wants to start. So yeah, just hopefully for him, he actually gets a lap in, and his middle sector is actually not too bad. He goes purple as well. I know it's not purple because I think even Jack Hickey set a faster middle sector, but I reckon he'll go top 10 quite comfortably this one if he doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, he heads through the club chicane. He is finishing this lap off. Not got a time on the board currently. Aiden 19 out of 19 runners, and he's going to come across the line. It's a 27.8, and that puts him up into P5.
There we go then. So easily into the top 10 there, and even ahead of his teammate by not a big margin. So Jack Hickey. I don't think Jack Hickey, from what I think, is particularly like Silverstone in terms of pace. I think it's a circuit. I'm sure he probably does like it at Silverstone, but in terms of drive, I just don't think he's always gelled with this circuit, sadly. So it's close. I think he just needs to gain a tenth and a half, and he'll be in P2. So, but we'll have to see where he can finish. To be honest, yourself, he's a few places behind Kai at the minute. So, I'm sure he'll want to try and improve a bit more.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we've got Jake Davis coming through the last corner, and he puts himself up into P9. Gets finally a lap on the board. Anyone else out on an out lap? Kai, I think, is on a flying lap. Yes, he is. And let's see what he does. Coming across the line now. He goes pole with 27.4.
Good on him. That's what you want to see from him. He knows that he's the underdog as such. He knows he's got that pressure on him after that last race. You want to start as high as you can, and currently P1 while his championship row was P6. Very easy, and I think on this game as well, because ERS is very important for attacking and defending. I think it's going to be a lot harder if you're out of position to gain that time if you're the likes of Jack Hickey.
Yeah, meanwhile, I think we've only got one car actually out on a flying lap at this current time, and that is ERT Jordan in the other AlphaTauri. He's currently down in P11 on a 28.8 as he comes through Luffield.
Yeah, he does there. So he's currently in P11, not too bad for himself. At 28.8, a few tenths, and he'll get into that top 10. So we'll see how he does Cops. Nicely keeps it within the white line. I think Cops is a bit dodgy when it comes to track limits, because you can have the wheel on the white line and it will invalidate you. So he does what he can there. A bit of understeer, not quite the line he wants. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's on a wheel, I'm not too sure. So, and he's actually 4.5 tenths up there. So he should be currently, I'd probably say, in the top 8 if he nails it. And I think ERT John does tend to like Silverstone quite a lot. I have noticed on previous games he does tend to do a lot of time trial around here, so you'd think he'd be a bit of a pro around here, and he comes across the line. This should be his last flying lap, and he goes P8 there on a 28.2, so a decent improvement for Jordan there.
But meanwhile, we're getting ready to go for the top runners to go for their final runs of this qualifying session. Jack Hickman in the Red Bull is going to be the first guy in the top 6 to go for that last run as he exits the club chicane now and starts his flying lap.
He does, yeah. So going up the gears as normal. I think at this point, Jack, he could be thinking, right, I'm in P6, I may as well just throw it all at the wall and just try and improve as we've got a Mercedes coming out, or actually his teammate there. A bit distracting, but I don't think it will cost him too much. Quite nice through that corner there, but yeah, it does have a bit of traffic ahead. Going to try and get a slipstream from, I think it's from the car ahead of him now. A bit too far back, but we'll see how he does. I don't think it would have cost him too much time with those cars. It's always a bit of a worry there, but he's actually 10th and a half up nearly on his time, so that will probably put him in P4 at the moment, but he's got that Mercedes, I think it's Wood actually, ahead of him. Probably a bit distracted and not knowing where he's going to go, so that may have cost him a bit of time. You want to use all this apron on the right hand side and just get prepared. You always, every time I come into cops, I always, you think of those corners, you go like, oh god, it's going to scare me. It's one of those corners really, but into Maggots and Beckett's then how does he do here? Rides all the curb on the right all the curb on the left, but avoid the sausage curves because they will unsettle you. Probably a bit of understeer from the car ahead due to that, but he's now 2/10 up, so that is exactly what he wants. So he'll probably go P3 or P4 with this still. Bit of a distraction with that car ahead, flashing light ahead, but I don't think it will cost him again too much. But brake as you get to the curb, a bit of understeer there because of the car in front. You never know. It's always it takes your eye off the lines. But it was 2/10 up in the third in there, and he gains another half a tenth in that final sector, so goes into P3 in the end.
Yeah, next person of the main contenders to finish a flying lap will be the Confessor as he goes through.
3.5 tenths up.
Yeah, 3.5 tenths up, and he's heading towards Sector 2 now as he comes through the exit of that. Is he going to gain any more time coming out the Maggots Beckett's? He's actually lost a little bit of time there. He's only 2.5 tenths up now as he heads towards Stoke Order. Up the gears, the DRS is wide open down the hanger straight, and he's just going to head down to 5th gear. He's only got a couple more corners to go on this flying lap, and let's see if it can improve. If that 2.5 tenths does improve him, it'll put him second on the grid, maybe even pole. As you can see it out, and that's a big slide there. Cam's finished his flying lap, so Jovial Manti win the next one, I believe, to finish a flying lap, and he's currently a 10th and a half up on his previous best. That will probably put him onto the second row of the grid, Softy.
It will, yeah. So Jovial Manti then, doing what he needs to, a 10th and a half up on his lap time. Quite nice through Stowe there, actually. Bit of oversteer on the exit, but you want that bit of rotation, just enough where you're confident on the power, but not enough where you're killing yourself, basically. As Court has actually sadly left the session, and here comes Jovial Manti across the line. P3 for him, so that is good. Only a 10th and a bit off his, off the pole time, so he can probably get into first place by turn 1 with that position. But yeah, the Confessor then. He was looking to potentially be on pole if he didn't mess that lap up, and unfortunately I think he sort of had a bit of a rage moment, because he knew he messed it up.
Oh no! Glock's had a spin. He was on for a good lap. He's had a spin coming through the club chicane, and that's assured Kai of pole position here at Silverstone. Glock is still going to line up second on the grid because I think he was the last car to finish a flying lap. Yeah, Jack Hickey headed back to the pits. Or is he retiring? He's just going to cross the line to end the session. But there we go. Kieran is on pole. Glock was trying to challenge him. He was about half a tenth down on his previous best going through sector 2. So he's pushing hard to try and finish out the lap and gain some time. Couldn't quite do it. And he ends up still second on the grid though. So Kai is on pole for Alpine, followed by Glock in second. And then we have Jovial Manti in third. Jack Hickey is fourth for Red Bull, and then we have the Confessor in fifth. Cam is in sixth, Aiden in seventh, and Matt Tibos rounding out the top 8. Then we've got Phil Bardrell, Sean, ERT Jordan, Mr. Chiapelli, Dan the Man, Court, CJH. It's less than a second covering the top 14, so very close in this field. Then we've got Alistair in 16th, Jake Davis in 17th, 18th for Jack Pearson, and 19th for Wet Lemons. So, what are your predictions going into this race, Softy?
Oof, I wish I knew, to be honest with yourself. I'm gonna throw it out there. I think VFL Glock will get a win. I'm gonna say Kai will bottle it. Hopefully not, because I want the championship to close up again. I hate doing predictions, to be honest, because it's so hard. There's so many factors in play. Really, it's just it is a pure guess. But hopefully, it should be. All I care about. I don't care who wins, as long as one closes the gap up and 2 is entertaining racing. But I would say I think VFL Glock will win, barring any mistakes, and I think Kai will probably finish second. To be honest.
Yep. So we're getting ready for the final preparations for the race. Round 10 of the season at the Silverstone circuit. 3.6 miles, 5.8 kilometres, 18 turns. But we know most of the corner names around this circuit, and it'll be a 13-lap race. I'd say probably the prime strategy is starting on mediums to softs around this track, especially with tyre wear being I know on previous F1 games it was quite high around this circuit as we're getting ready to go for round 10 of the season. So the lights coming on, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights are out here in Silverstone, and it's lights out and away we go. That looks like a strong start from Kai. Well, it doesn't actually. He's going to get challenged by Jovial Manti, and Jovial Manti jumps straight up into the lead from third on the grid. So Kai down to second, Glock is down to third, and then Jack Hickey in fourth, Aiden in fifth. But Jovial Manti is going to try and hold on to Kai. He's on those soft tyres this time round. Court is disconnected at the start of this race, and that's a bit of disaster for him. He's down into 19th, but Jovial Manti coming towards the end of sector 1 leads the race. Kai in second, then we've got Glock in third, and then the 2 Red Bulls are basically nose to tail, gets all scrappy behind, but the top 5 are pretty much line astern, and now they've sorted themselves out.
They are, yeah, the top 5 all on the soft tyres, while P6 down to P12 all on the mediums. So the top guys have all decided to start on those softs. And to be honest with yourself, because tyre wear is not really an issue, I think probably starting on the softs is probably a slightly better decision round this circuit, just to give you that extra little bit of grip, to defend and attack. But at the minute it's looking very close. We've got a yellow flag as we've got Wet Lemons sadly having spun at Copse really.
Kai's looking for a move to the outside of Stowe, down the hanger straight in the Alpine. It's going to be Jovial Manti and Kai heading side by side. Jovial Manti just about hanging on in the AlphaTauri, but he's going to get the whippity wop, flippity flop. They're going to be side by side heading towards the club chicane, and we're not really sure of that angle there. Jovial Manti side by side, he's just about going to lose the position. Kai gets the move done. He's back into the lead of the race. Glock is all over the back of him into third place. Ooh. And there's White. He's gone wide, and Jack Hickey's maybe going to look at a move into Abbey. They're going to be side by side. Don't think of that. It's going to work, sunshine. And no, it doesn't. Jack Hickey just about hangs back for the time being, and he's still getting very tasty up the front as Glock locks up and runs wide, and Aiden spun. Yeah, Aiden spun in the background. It's all kicking off up the front. The Confessor's up into the top 5 now, and the Glock is just about hanging on, and Jovial Manti's just about hanging on for the time being as well.
He is, yeah. I think Aiden Griffiths actually hit the back of his teammate Jack Hickey there, so not really what he wanted. But I must point out as well, actually already, corner cut warning. Glock actually corner cut turn 1 by having Jack Hickey alongside him into there. So that's one warning for Glock, which is not what he wants. He's actually dropping back from Jack Hickey at the minute, while Jack Hickey is closing up on the front 2 really. But at the minute it's all hands on deck. Get ready for the next round of battles, as we can see. I think CJH has also spun it at Copse really, but yeah, unfortunate for again Matt Tibos. That's his second race in a row tonight that he's DNF'd.
Yeah, it is not a good start to the season for Matt Tibos indeed. Well, it's not a good first half of the season, shall we say, at this point. We're pretty much approaching the halfway point of the championship now, and he's not had a good run. Jack Hickman, though, is 4.5 tenths behind Jovial Manti now, and he's going to be looking to make some inroads and try and get past him and try and keep up with Kai, who's just set the fastest lap of the race. So DRS has been enabled this lap as we head towards the first opportunity for Jack Hickman to use that DRS. He's going through the village and loop section. CJH picking up a time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He picks up a 5-second penalty as we ride on board the Red Bull. He's going to have the DRS wide open, and he's going to be close enough to make a move in towards this corner of Brooklands. No, he isn't. He's not going to be quite close enough, but he does lunge it very deep in the brakes.
He does, yeah. Gains him a lot of time in the braking there, which I think has helped him out, but he wasn't quite close enough there as Kai, I think, is using a bit more ERS than the cars behind him. And actually, Jack Hickey's on 98% ERS, Jovial Manti 78, while Kai is on 63. So I think Jack Hickey's playing that long game at the minute. He knows that ERS is definitely hard to regenerate around this circuit because there's not that many hard braking zones. So he just needs to keep doing what he's doing and use the ERS to attack sparingly.
Yeah, he does indeed. As we see Glock actually getting closer and closer to the back of Jack Hickman, but he's not going to quite be close enough to make a move. This is the battle for P2, P3 and P4. Meanwhile, Kai is putting out about a second and a half lead now in this race as we approach the start of lap number 4. They head through the club chicane and we ride on board with Jack Hickey, who's again, big slide going through club, and that's going to allow Glock past him. Yeah, that does. And maybe the Confessor as well. Is the Confessor going to be quite close enough into Abbey? No, not quite, but he's definitely going to feel more pressure now from the cars behind Jack Hickman. He's already lost a place to Glock, and now the Confessor's going to have the DRS heading towards the Wellington Straight.
And obviously the Confessor is the first of the cars that started on the mediums, so it's looking good for him at the minute. I think, again, the deficit between the tyres, because the lack of tyre wear is not a huge factor. I think definitely he's looking better than the cars ahead of him at the minute. As Aidan Griffins is actually, I think, retired and DNF sadly, so not what he wanted there. But yeah, the Confessor's looking good at the minute on those mediums. Once he pits, he'll be able to go on those softs and get that ever so slight pace advantage on the cars ahead. But it's just a case of Jack Hickey get a big wobble on the entry to Cop. So I think Jack Hickey either roasted his tyres, his tyre wear is worse than the cars around him, or he's just knocked his confidence a bit.
Maybe he's overheating his tyres just a little bit rather than tyre wear. He's overheating them and is struggling with it as the Confessor is going to look to making a move round the outside of Stowe Corner, then wheel back in, heading towards Stowe Corner. He's trying to hang it round the outside. Is going to be able to get the move done. And he does as Jack Hickman heads into the pits.
I think from what I heard pre-race when I was in a party with these guys after I came back from work, I think Jack Hickey was actually struggling with overheating his tyres. I think same with Dan the Man as well, who sadly is in P12 at the minute. So the problem is if you've got a setup or a tyre pressure that's overheating the tyres, you can't do anything. You physically cannot do anything other than try and manage it throughout the race, and sadly it's always going to cost you. It's not something you can change easily between qualifying and the race, sadly. So yeah, I think Jack Hickey's in for a race of pain, unfortunately for himself, while his championship rival is leading the race now.
Yeah, he is leading the race. Kai 2.5 seconds clear nearly of Jovial Manti. Jovial Manti has actually got Glock all over the back of him now, after Glock has, I think the best way of phrasing it, it's been released from the back of Jack Hickman and his struggling tyre woes. He's now been released and he's now within a decent range of Jovial Manti to maybe have a look at Stowe Corner if he can keep it tidy through Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Jovial Manti is on a wheel, so it helps ever so slightly that precision through Maggots and Beckett's. But I think a good pad user can also be very precise. But he has got the DRS. But I do think potentially VFR Glock is probably running a bit more downforce by the looks of it than Jovial Manti. As Kai is in the pits, as Glock also pits while Jovial Manti stays out.
Yeah, Jovial Manti's going to play the long game. It'll be interesting to see where the guys like Jock, Glock and Kai come out compared to the guys who have pitted already. Meanwhile, further down the field, we've got a bit of a battle brewing between Sean and Jake Davis. This is the battle for 7th on the road currently, as Jake Davis is getting closer and closer to the back of him.
He is, yeah. Jake Davis having a decent race. Unfortunately, I've got to say, for once this season, he's really struggled this season for whatever reason, and he's currently in the top 10, so some points for him, and battling Jean-Luc Taylor, the one and only as such. John is, I'd probably say, not where he wants, but probably where he expects himself to be. Not had really the pace to fight for wins consistently or much at all, to be honest, since the PS3 days in his last TGP title. So I think Jean will just be just trying to do what he can where he can, and at the minute that's ahead of Jake Davis.
Yeah. Meanwhile, further down the field, Kai has come out 2 seconds ahead of Glock, and Glock has come out in front of Jack Hickman. So that's kind of order as it is with those lot down there. We're riding on board with the Aston. We've got to flick off board as we go through the Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel section. So you can see the guys that started on softs have already started to come in. The only ones who really haven't yet are Jovial Manti and the Confessor. But the Confessor actually started on mediums, if I was mistaken.
He did, yeah. He did start on the mediums, and I must actually say, VFR Glock, I'd say, is probably slightly closer to Kai after the pit stops. Not a huge amount, probably a few tenths, but yeah, the Confessor is the only one at the minute that's on the mediums that was in that front fight, really. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes out and how far or how much time he's lost compared to the people that start on the softs that he was battling.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Jack Hickey's actually closed in a bit on Glock as well during these rounds of stops. Pitting that lap earlier has just gave him a bit more confidence to get to the back of Glock. And Phil Bardwell picks up the time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. It'll be very interesting to see where Jovial Manti comes out compared to these guys. He's just exits in the pit lane now. Let's see where he is. There's Jovial Manti. He's going to be just in front. He's just in front of Glock and Hickey, but just behind the guys in, just behind Kai, but he's on cold tyres. He's going to be really struggling here. He's side by side with Glock as they go through Aintree corner, and Glock gets the move done, and Jack Hickey's going to try and make a move as well down the inside into Brooklands corner. I think he's got nothing to defend with for the time being, but he's going to have a lap fresher tyres come the end of the race.
He is, yeah, and I think, again, with the tyre wear being not that big, at least on previous games, I don't know how it is on this game, you know, I think look how much he's losing already. He's going to be with outside of the DRS zone if he's not careful, come, you know, the next few corners. So, you know, granted, it's not too bad for him, but, you know, I think that undercut from the two cars ahead of him, VFL Glock and Hickey, probably the better strategy in this one, as Jack Pearson gets a penalty and there is a yellow flag, as it looks like Alistair has actually spun on the exit of Maggis and Beckett's just ahead of this little battle here. But yeah, it's worked out, I'd say, not too bad for Jack Hickey. He's actually relatively close to VFL Glock now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where the Confessor comes out of this pit lane as well. He's on those medium tyres, and it'll be very interesting to see where he comes out compared to this battle. Kai is just coming across the start-finish line now. I think he's going to be behind Kai. Yeah, he's definitely going to be behind Kai, but he's going to be right in the middle of this battle for P2. He's come out just in front, and he's on the softs. Yes, he's got the tyre warm-up issue, so it's going to be a struggle the first couple of corners. But if he could hold off Glock and Hickey through these first couple of corners, I think he'd be able to give Kai a challenge.
Possibly, yeah. Obviously, he does have DRS behind him for VFL Glock and Jack Hickey. Here comes Glock then around the outside. Got to be careful because it's very easy as he shuts the door on him. So very good defending from the Confessor there. But Glock is going to try around the outside. He's going to try to squeeze him out onto the gravel if he's not careful. But no, he actually gives him enough room. But at this point, Glock, his tyres, you know, his tyres will be warm, but so will the Confessors now. And you know, he's going to try around the outside. He's going to try and hold it, but not quite. And I think the Confessor at this point has probably got the grip. But tyre wear is not that much of an issue, so it's going to be. I don't think the Confessor will pull away from Glock, to be honest.
No, he won't. Well, I think the Confessor should start making the gap now. He's gone through the tyre warm-up phase, but the Glock is still all over the back of him. He's got the DRS, he's going to be using hers, he's going to look to the outside of Stowe corner. The Confessor's going to hang it around the inside. This is a great battle between these two, and Confessor just about hangs on for the time being, but is Glock going to try and stick it up the inside of the club chicane? He had a look, but didn't quite make the move stick.
Yeah, as Jack Hickey's actually sort of dropped slightly off the back of Glock with this battle, as you've got JD and Dan the man in the pit, so that's two more places that they've gained on you know, the people that are pits. When Glock, there we go, Glock has now got a penalty due to his corner cutting. Very easy to do it at turn one, sadly, and unfortunately I think that's where all of his corner cuts have come from. Yeah,
unfortunate for Glock. That's probably going to drop him a bit down the field. He'll probably drop out of the podium positions unless he can get past the Confessor and make the gap he needs. But Jack Hickey's actually starting to close in a little bit on him now.
He is, yeah. The Confessor has now got nearly a 1 second gap. So I think Glock's sadly mistakes, and this is exactly what happened to him on the last season. You know, he corner caught and it actually cost him potentially the win. So, so unfortunate there for Glock, but Jack Hickey's winning the second. But this is what I'm talking about. So I think it's going to be still difficult for Jack Hickey to actually gain and overtake Glock, because it looks like at the minute Glock's actually got
sorry to interrupt you, but further down the field, Jordan and Jack Pearson going to be side by side through Cops corner. Jack Pearson just about hangs it round the outside, and they're still going to be side by side in towards Maggots and Beckett. ERT Jordan on the soft tyres, Jack Pearson on the mediums, and are they going to be scrapping as they continue on this closest battle on the circuit currently? And there's a spin for Jordan, not quite.
He rode the curve a bit too much and got on the little sausage curves on the inside, which unsettled it. So unfortunate for Jordan there, but that was his own doing, as Kai sets the fastest lap as the Confessor actually immediately beats it, and there's only 2.4 seconds behind Kai as the Confessor. So we'll see if he's able to close that gap in the next 3 laps.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see indeed. Meanwhile, Jean is getting closer and closer to the back of Mr. Chiapelli as well, as these are the main battles on the circuit currently. Chiapelli and Jean battling for 6th and 7th, and we've got Jack Pearson and Jordan fighting over 10th and 11th. I think it's just sort of calmed down up the front now until the Confessor gets to within a decent range, and he is getting in within. He's starting to chip that gap away on Kai, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I mean, he's on the soft, so he will have that ever so slight pace advantage. Again, as I've said it multiple times, with the tyre wear not being a massive factor, I don't think it's going to gain you a huge amount of time. Naturally, if you're on the softs, you're going to be faster, or at least you'd hope so. But I do think it's probably not going to be enough unless Kai makes a mistake. Now I think Kai will have the pace to hold the Confessor off, and this is sort of the race that we expect the Confessor to be in. A former TGP champion when he called himself Odems on PlayStation, but we expect, and personally I expect a lot more from him in terms of fighting for these wins. I mean, when he won his title, he was very fast, and he's shown glimpses of it on this game and this season so far, but it's not quite came for him. He's had a few good races, had a lot of terrible races, so we'll see if he can do anything. He's closed about 4/10 on that last lap on Kai, and he's actually spun, so that's probably any hope of him winning down the drain, and this is exactly what I'm referring to. Silly mistakes, it's cost him so much this season so far.
Yes, I think that's the battle up the front pretty much done then. Yeah, he's pushing hard to catch Kai to try and get that race victory. We said the victory was in the bag for Kai last race though, and he ended up spinning from the lead, so it's not over yet until the fat lady sings, as they say, as we see Jean getting closer and closer to the back of Chiapelli, and Jake Davis is joining the battle as well in that Aston Martin.
He is, yeah. Obviously that Aston Martin, it's not a bad car.
Meanwhile, Jack Pearson's run wide on the exit of Luffield, and that's gifted the position to ERT Jordan and dropped him out the side of the top 10. And now Dan the Man's going to get past him as well. Yes, he is. Dan the Man's got the move done in the cops, but Jack Pearson isn't giving up yet as they go through towards Maggots and Beckett's. He is on those medium tyres. Dan the Man's on the softs. I think they're just going to have the grip advantage through this section of the circuit. And Jack Pearson's picked up a penalty. What a surprise.
And then runs off the circuit because he thinks, I can't go off that corner anymore. Just Jack Pearson things, to be honest. He's, I think he was even getting quote-unquote penalties even when it was on standard, which, I think you look back and you think, how it was standard, it lets you get away with everything. But yeah, I must say though, quite an unfortunate race for Dan the Man. He's in P11 as we've got New Zealand Cam sadly spinning out of the top 10 down into 12th now. So, but yeah, so. Unfortunate for Dan the Man. He's he's shown great pace at certain circuits, but sadly I think Silverstone has not been one of them.
No, it hasn't indeed. This battle for P6 is definitely forming up though. 6th, 7th and 8th pretty much covered by a blanket heading into the DRS zone on the Wellington Straight. Is there going to be a move done? No, there's still going to be line astern as they go through Brooklands and Luffield Softy.
Yeah, obviously Jake Davis having a much better race in Silverstone than I'd say the majority of his season really, but yeah, unfortunately for Jean ahead of him, he can't actually get ahead of Mr. Chiapelli, which I think for me probably says that Jean's running a bit more downforce than the car ahead of him. So I think it's definitely harder on this game if you've got less downforce than someone.
Sorry to have to interrupt you there. Glock made a little mistake coming out of Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, and now Jack Hickman all over the back of him.
He is, yeah, he's closed up, but 1 lap to go. Is he going to have that pace advantage? I think Jack Hickey's got 50% ERS, so he may as well use majority of it where he can at this point, just to try and get as close as he can for that 1 or 2 final attacks down the DRS straights. But with the fact that Jack Hickey does have no penalty, while Glock does, he doesn't need to necessarily do anything, but I'd probably try and at least go for the fastest lap, just to get that extra point if he can, just get all of his errors out of his system as such.
Meanwhile, further down the field, Sean and Jake Davis were side by side going into the club chicane, but Sean just about held on as we're on the final lap of this race here at the circuit of Silverstone. Look at the penalties. There's a 3-second penalty for Glock, so he's going to drop dropped behind Jack Hickman anyway, and he's going to come in under threat from Jovial Manti the way it's headed as well. Mr. Chiapelli's got a 3-second penalty. The only one in that battle, 4th, 6th, 7th and 8th that hasn't got a penalty is John, so he's definitely going to jump up in front of the pair of them no matter what. So that's probably the reason he's not pushing that hard, to be honest, and looking so hard for that overtake. But meanwhile, we go towards Jack Hickey. Can he make the move on circuit? He'd love to do it on circuit. He's coming through Magnus Beckett.
He's just too far.
Yeah, I think he's just too far back to realistically make the move. So we're going to go with the Alpine driver of Kieran. He's just got a couple more corners left to go in this race. Round Stowe. And he's just got the club chicane. Yeah, he don't want to do that too early after his antics in Canada, but he's got through the club chicane. Has he spun it? No, he hasn't. He's got round the final corner, and he's spun it. He's spun.
But I mean, he's going to win it though. He's going to win it. Just
about. Okay. That was an interesting way to cross the line. Kai spinning across the line, picks up the victory. The Confessor spears it into the wall. He takes 2nd place. Then we've got Jack Hickman in 3rd, Glock in 4th, Jovial Manatee in 5th. But just as we were saying to Kai, he doesn't want to spin it coming out the last corner. He nearly does and nearly chucks away the victory.
Yeah, I think it was a few games ago. I don't know if it was in the TGP1 or the F2 Championship we did, but I think one of the drivers at Spa started weaving before the finish line and spun it into the wall, and DNF probably about a metre from the finish line, and sadly they finished last because of it. Otherwise they would have won. So as you were saying earlier, don't count your chickens until they've hatched as such. Just ensure that you get across the line and don't do any silly manoeuvres.
So that is that from your 2 races at Silverstone. Kai takes home the race victory for Alpine, and it's followed once again this season for the 4th night out of 5 nights so far this season. Jack Hickman has won the first race of the night, and Kieran in the Alpine has won the 2nd race of the night. So that trend is back on for the field to see as we go on to the 2 races next week at Austria and France. But neither driver's going to care about that trend that they keep going on about too much, as they've both picked up a victory once again this season. Jake Davis picks up driver of the day, and he had a solid drive in the end, to be fair, Jake Davis.
He did.
As he leaves the session immediately after seeing that. Maybe got to celebrate.
There we go then. Yeah, he's gone to celebrate by probably drowning his sorrows in a tough season for himself. But yeah, the podium on the other hand, as we can see, the Alpine, the Mercedes and the Red Bull all on the podium. A very good fight and a very good race, really, you've got to say, from Kai. He did what he needed to. He did well. I think Jack Hickey probably won't be too disappointed. He finished where he needed to. Minimise that point deficit. That he was going to lose, really. So he's still going to be leading the championship, is Jack Hickey, and he just needs to keep doing this. If one of them beats one and then the other beats the other that same night, I think the gap's going to remain around the same. So yeah.
So here is the final race results here at the British Grand Prix. Kieran picks up the race victory from the Confessor, and then we've got Jack Hickman in 3rd, Glock in 4th, and Jovial Manti in 5th. John finishes in 6th, then we've got Miss Chiapelli in 7th, Jake Davis in 8th, Jordan in 9th, and Dan the Man rounding out the top 10. Court is 11th, Jack Pearson in 12th, Cam in 13th, and Wet Lemons picking up the last point in 14th. Then CJH, Alistair Bain, Phil Bardrell, Aidan, and Matt Tibos all did not score any points. So I believe we've got the final point standings after tonight's races before penalties, so these are provisional as it stands. But we have Jack Hickman leading the championship by 4 points now over Kieran in 2nd place. It's 163 to 159. Roy is up into 3rd place on 112, ahead of Dan the Man on 110, and then Court is on 86 in 5th. So those are your rundown of the top 5 after tonight. But what did you think of those 2 races, and any final thoughts before we finish up?
Yeah, not bad races. Some good, entertaining battles going on. So that's nice to see. Not really much to take away, to be honest. It's the usual Kai versus Jack Hickey in terms of overall pace and outright pace. So it's going to be those two to the end. I definitely think they're very similar on pace, this season. So I think it will go down to the last race. But I'm just looking forward to to the future races and the end of the season. See who ends up coming out on top.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see indeed. But that is it for your 2 races tonight in TGP1, rounds 9 and 10 of season 38 from Canada and Great Britain. We'll be joining you next time out from Austria at the Red Bull Ring and the Circuit Paul Ricard in France for rounds 11 and 12. But that has been it for your racing tonight. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and we will see you next time out on PS4.